Hello, this is Annie, and I'm back with another The Sims 4 to The Sims 2 conversion. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance for my stuffy voice. I've been completely wiped out by COVID ever since releasing the most recent Let's Play episode, basically. Yeah, sorry about the voice. But yeah, at least now my energy is better, so I actually could sit down and build something in the game at least. And I decided to go with a lake house, and this is a very beautiful building done by Sims 4 Creations. And actually the build was supposed to be on a diagonal, and well, I tried that, and I got completely screwed over by the roof. It did not turn out well, so I decided to just go with a normal straight house, and the dimensions were a little bit odd because I decided to do that. Because when you build on a diagonal, it's actually, the house becomes a little bit bigger than it is normally. So, I think I ended up fixing it. I built the house a little bit bigger than it was supposed to be, so that's how I did that in the end. And I'm starting out with the layout. I used a deck, like a foundation, under the entire build, because that's the way that I can do it in The Sims 2, seeing as I can't build like a flooring that goes out over the water in The Sims 2 like you can in The Sims 4. So yeah, it looks a little bit different just because of that limitation. And then the roof also ended up looking a bit different, because when you do a pitched roof like this, you can't really do the long angle, the slimmest, if that makes sense. So I couldn't create that glassed-in portion of it, unfortunately. However, I could put in a window, so that was actually a happy surprise. I had this window that was sort of like on the floor level, and then changing the angle of the roof actually made the glass see-through as well. So yeah, I was very happy about that. And seeing as the pitch of the roof is so low, the solar panels that I put in actually had to be on an angled OMSP to look good. So I put it on a 22 degree angle. And that worked out fairly well, I think. And I actually also decided to create this beautiful patio area with the help of 90 degree angles OMSPs and columns. So that's what I'm doing here, and it was pretty fiddly actually. It was a bit of a struggle to make them all sit at the same height, for one thing, and not go over it. So I had to mess around quite a bit with this to make it work, but I think that in the end result turned out very nice, and it frames the house beautifully, I think. This is definitely something that could be brought into the Sims 2 gameplay, I think. It's just you have to be careful when you furnish the house later, because if you accidentally click on one of the OMSPs that's like invisibly floating in the air, you will remove the column, and if you, as I usually do, when you regret doing something and want to take it back to where it was, you hit escape. The column will actually go up to the default height again, so you have to lower it again. So that's one of the things that you have to be aware of if you want to try this out, to not accidentally click and hit escape. And yeah, I decided to also put them down around the floor edge, because that made it look a bit more like what it looked like in The Sims 4. And of course I had some issues with putting them down around the water edge, And at first I tried to mess around with like the elevation of it, and I put down ground below it as well to make it work. And well, at this stage of the building process I thought that I had fixed it. But of course I'm going to put back the lake below that deck later, and yeah, that's going to mess things up again. So problem solved for now, but I'll have to fix it with another trick later. And here I sort of took a look at the lot and realized that I had sort of messed up where that little path was supposed to go. So I had to change that around, and yeah, here you can see the solution that I had to come up with, the below ground OMSPs, and those made the whole thing work, so that those columns are actually on the floor above the water rather than on the same floor. And here you can see that I put in the back and, well, the front door really to the build, where it's supposed to be. So seeing as I built it straight rather than on the diagonal, as I mentioned, things are a little bit different in terms of like the layout of the lot itself. But yeah, it worked out in the end, I think. And I did the same trick on the upper floor with the columns, but I had some issues with the shadows on the edge, so I actually just decided to leave it like that. Seeing as I didn't put in a column where that diagonal roof piece, like the diagonal balcony piece is, it ended up becoming symmetric anyway, so I decided to just go with that. And the whole house is made in this beautiful wood panel, and it's technically supposed to be in a brighter, like a lighter wood, but in the end I decided to go for the darker one because that one looked a lot better from the wall colors that I had available. And yeah, I found this beautiful wooden flooring that had a nice coloring that matched the columns very well. It's not diagonal, of course, because, well, if I had actually gone ahead and built this on a diagonal, then the floor tiles would have naturally been like that. But yeah, again, I built it straight, so that's why. And I looked around for a nice bay window that I could use here, but in the end I didn't really have one that looked good. So I decided to just go ahead with a 3-tile window that matched with the one I used on the roof. I could have, of course, built out like a little piece with walls that went out more towards the water, but I didn't think that would have been a good solution for this. So I just went ahead with the flat windows like that. And here was when I sort of realized that I had built the house technically too big. But in the end, I decided not to rebuild it smaller because, well, as I mentioned, when you build something on a diagonal, the room size becomes bigger somewhat, like I suppose half a wall or something like that. So I would need all the space that I could get, basically. So that's what I ended up going with here. So the windows aren't exactly where they are supposed to be, to the left right now, but it looks quite all right. I think that this was the best solution working with the tools that I had available. So I'm starting out with looking on the garden out here, and yeah, of course we have available both solar panels and this windmill. And this house is supposed to be off-grid, so that's where the electricity is coming from. And I put in these beehives. That's actually the exact same The Sims 4 beehives that was used in the original video. So of course conversions. And then also this pretty nice clothing hanger, or like laundry hanger. And it's actually also animated, So it's a pretty cool object. And then I decided to not put in that sort of roof part above the windows, because the wooden arms on them actually sat on the glass, and I didn't like that, so I decided to just put it over the door instead. And yeah, here I am using this part of ivy in order to create this sort of climbing plant that's supposed to be on this beautiful roofing. And here is one of the beautiful new mods showcased as well, that's come out for The Sims 2 recently while I've been sick. And that's the amazing new mod by Lamar that makes everything shiftable, like everything. And that's such a cool mod, I mean, seriously amazing. And that was what allowed me to actually elevate those little bits of grass and greenery on top of that roof without using OMSPs, because everything becomes shiftable just like normally paintings are. And that's such a cool object. I mean, really, one of the things that I've been struggling with the most when recreating these Sims 4 builds is to actually have to use OMSPs for everything. Because they always like go all out with the decor. So everything has taken me like double the amount of time that it would take in The Sims 4 to decorate. But now, I mean, the amount of time it would take me to put in these decor items is like cut by half thanks to this mod. So I highly recommend that you get this mod, because seriously, it's so amazing. Something that can happen though is that the trees go below ground so that the trunks entirely disappear and you just see the crown of it. But that's sort of like a disguised a perk of the mod, I think, because it all actually allows you to create these interesting looking bushes with trees as well. So yeah, that's something that can happen as well. But if you don't want that, if you want to just have the tree normally with the trunk, you just delete the one that you have and buy a new one. Right, so we're starting to decorate the patio area here with these planting pots that definitely wanted to stack. So I had to fiddle around a little bit with those, but in the end it turned out well. And a lot of plants everywhere. In the previous video I had this struggle with pillows that were everywhere. And in this build it was definitely the plants. So many plants everywhere. But I mean, I have to admit that it looks nice. And seeing as you don't really have to take care of them in The Sims 2 like you would in The Sims 1, it's not like that bad to have all of these beautiful plants everywhere. It just, yeah, it looks really nice. So yeah, there were a lot of sort of lanterns used in this house, and yeah, I think that Sims 4 Creations, she actually mentioned that she consciously picked those out because she thought that it should be like they didn't use very much electricity. The solar panels and the windmill sort of is used for some electricity, but not everything. So I think that the Sims that were in mind for this build was going to sort of live consciously without electricity, sort of try to preserve the environment. So that was why a lot of those kinds of things were used. And yeah, not very much electrical gadgets. And yeah, on this patio again were some carpets. And just like in the previous conversion video, I was a little bit confused by that, why you would put carpets outside. But yeah, I suppose it looks nice like this, and you just have to extend the imagination a little bit. And then we have this boat in the ocean, and yeah, I really like this. I think that, I mean, the idea of this lot is that it's supposed to be an island, and that little path on the back of it, or well, technically the front of it, is just for like game mechanics. You're supposed to be able to use the lot to access it, but I suppose the idea of it is that it's supposed to be an island that's accessed with this boat. Yeah, and I really like that idea. I think that there's these kinds of teleportation pads, I think, that possibly could be used in order to make a real island, or maybe just use the teleportation function in the game to teleport the Sims away from the island and just sort of imagine the boat being used. But yeah, that's something that could be done, I think, if you wanted to create a real island like this. Yeah, and again, some rugs up here on the roof as well. And yeah, some chairs. It's a little bit of a strange area, I think, to have like beehives and then laundry and also a sitting area up there. I'm not sure like how you would use that space, but yeah, at least it's like stuff that I could imagine those kinds of people living here using anyway. So in that sense, it makes sense like that. And yeah, it looks really nice. And I actually really like this garden part of the build as well. It's really beautiful, I think, and the way that the sort of the patio area is sticking out over the water is also really nice. And I don't often use these kinds of decks, the foundations that looks like bridges, so it was really fun to actually use that and see what could be done with it. And yeah, I think it actually looks really nice. These kinds of like over the water buildings is something that I've wanted to experiment with for a while, and this building gave me the perfect excuse to actually try it out. So yeah, I really like that. Okay, so we're moving into the insides of the house, and well, this is where I'm going to start to struggle with the layout, and I think that it turned out okay, but it's not going to look exactly the same. So there's going to be a lot of like fiddling back and forth with like where the walls are located and what kinds of room sizes I use. So at the start, I tried to use these little wall pieces, like half wall pieces, to work with the room, and I struggled so much with these counters. For some reason, they did not want to connect when I had them next to that wall. I got it to work somewhat with using these ones, and I started to like build it into the wall and make it look good. And then putting down the stove, I realized that, oh no, these are actually islands. So I had to go back to these counters, and all of them had the same issue, and I was like getting frustrated with like, what is the error? Like when I put it in the middle of the room it connects, but not when I put it in that spot. And here was when I realized that, oh, it's the wall actually. So yeah, that was a bit annoying, but I got it to work somewhat, for now at least. That might change later. And yeah, at first I went with these nooks and niches half wall types of things to make the kitchen work on the half across the room. But in the end I'm going to have to narrow it down even more, because I'm actually going to have to fit in like a sofa and a sofa table and also a fireplace in between the kitchen half wall and the wall leading into the bathroom. So yeah, this is not gonna stay the way it is right now. And here is when I am starting to just furnish the kitchen, making it look nice, putting in all the decor items, and yeah, as I mentioned, having a much easier time doing it than the normal because of the Lamar mod. So yeah, here is around the time when I realized that it's supposed to be like a small window there. And in the end, I didn't have anything that looked even remotely similar to what was used in the original build. But I had this pretty small window that I could use, and it actually added something to the build, I think. Yeah, putting in these decor items here. And it, of course, it was a little bit of a struggle to sort of decide what was going to match the most closely to the original build, but I actually decided to not be too picky in this build with what I used. In the previous builds that I've done, I've tried to be like extremely nitpickingly close to what the original is, but in this one I decided to go a bit more freehand, and I think that was actually a good choice, because I think that the time I spent on decorating this was cut down not only by the Lamar mod, but also because I wasn't doing it exactly like what it was in the original this time. So I just sort of picked out things that looked in essence the same and put them down in similar positions, but not like exactly. So yeah, I was a bit more freehand with this, and I think that that was a good choice in the end. And it's actually also really fun to dig through your folders with custom content and trying to find stuff that you don't normally use, and just put them in and match stuff, and I mean, just being free with it. It's actually really fun, so yeah, I really enjoy doing that. So yeah, this is what it's starting to look like, and yeah, again, a lot of potted plants everywhere. And I recently got these really beautiful ones by Pineapple Forest that I really love, so I really enjoyed using them all over this build. And yeah, for once using one of the Maxis objects actually, that orchid, ended up finding a nice home in this kitchen. And here is when I started to mess around with the cupboards, because I wanted to have something above that fridge, and yeah, the one that I had been using didn't have something that was small enough to place there, so I ended up going with this one instead. And it actually, yeah, it doesn't look all that similar to the original, but I think that the color at least is the same, so that's nice. Something. Right, and here I am starting to realize that the kitchen that I created was way too big. I made the bathroom one tile longer to help myself out a little bit, and putting down the fireplace, I just realized that this is not gonna work. So I had to redo quite a lot of stuff here, but I think that in the end this actually turned out better for it to have a smaller kitchen like this. And I could actually use a real half wall on the back of everything to make it look better in this case. Because the back of that stove of course needs to be covered up, and I think that I actually won over that difficult counter that didn't want to connect, because in the end I just sort of shoved the counter against the one that didn't want to connect, just creating the illusion of them connecting, and actually creating a smaller kitchen in the process. So I think that I actually won that fight in the end. So that's nice. So it's a pretty slim kitchen, but it's entirely functional. I playtest it at the end, that you will get to see as well. So yeah, again, I am pleasantly surprised by the amazing routing of the Sims 2 in this build as well. And by now I really shouldn't be surprised, because it's really awesome. the routing in this game. So yeah, here are some pillows, but putting them down is not all that tricky with this new elevation mod. I'm going to keep praising it because it's so amazing. And then this pillow was not like sitting leaning, so I put it on a 22% leaning OMSP. And then I used this amazing shifting OMSP that allows you to shift things at increments. It's really amazing as well. So yeah, putting down some more carpets, some more plants, and then shoving a living room table in there as well. And yeah, actually it also works. The sofa is usable and they can walk around it, so it actually ended up working, but it looks really, really tight. But yeah, anyway, as long as it works, I am happy with it. So yeah, we're moving on to the bedroom, and this is also going to be pretty slim compared to what it looks like in The Sims 4. But I actually kind of fell in love with how this turned out, because yeah, it became this little nice part of the build that was not actually its own room, but it was just framed in, almost like a little hiding place inside of the house. So yeah, I actually kind of love how it turned out. And I am starting to utilize this little trick that the Sims 4 players use a lot, and that is shoving things into the wall to make them appear smaller. And it's actually a really viable trick to use in The Sims 2 as well. So that little sort of table behind the bed frame is shoved into the wall to appear smaller than it actually is. And yeah, it worked out very well, I think. I'm putting in a kitchen table here as well, and all of the chairs in this build are mismatched, so that adds to the sort of the feel of the entire build, I think. And here I used the same trick that was used in the original video to put in curtains. But the thing about curtains in The Sims 2 is that they have this sort of outsticking part at the back that's supposed to connect to the wall to actually make it look like it's actually sitting in the wall, and that's really nice feature of it. But the issue is that when you try to put it down like in the middle of a room like that, it looks really, really weird without anything to connect to. So I ended up actually putting in yet another column in the middle of the room. And you might think that this would make the bed unusable. It actually doesn't. It actually is completely usable still with that column in that spot. So yeah, win again for the Sims 2 routing. Something that I have figured out with messing around with placement of beds using the quarter tile placement and similar things is that as long as they can access the pillow, they're actually fine with stuff around the bed. So yeah, this is something that you can actually do and have the bed be usable. So, and yeah, there was this little part on the side where it was a clothing rack. And at first I started to try to make it usable, but then no, I ended up going with just for decoration. And here again is another furniture that I pushed into the wall. You just have to make sure that it doesn't go far enough to stick out on the other side. But as long as you just have it sort of inside of the wall, it works out fine. And in this case I had to make sure that the things I put on the shelves weren't pushed also into the wall, because that looked really weird. Right, and something that I ended up realizing during the building process was that actually there were some different kinds of wood textures on the walls, and I just decided to pretend that I didn't see that and just keep this wooden texture all across the walls, because I just thought it looked a lot better like that. So yeah, I didn't copy that exactly. And here is something that I have realized that is possible to do if you have the Sweet Down Low mod that makes the paintings sit at ground level when you take them out of the inventory. And that is actually putting them on angled OMSPs. So I used these 11-degree angled ones in order to make it look like they are leaning against the wall. And of course this is also possible to do if even if you don't have the Sweet Down Low mod. But the thing is then that you might have issues with very dark shadows on those objects. Yeah, I really recommend having that mod if you want to do something like that, because that way you don't have issues with those shadows. And here is a little part of the room that's for painting purposes, and actually there were supposed to be these newspapers under the easel in order to protect the flooring, I suppose, and I really loved that concept. But unfortunately I didn't have any newspaper to put under the easel, so I just took out what I had, and that was a nice neat stack of newspapers. So in essence the newspapers are there in spirit anyway, but they're not spread out on the floor right now. So yeah, putting in some more plants. Whenever in doubt, put in some more plants. I feel like is the spirit of this build. But yeah, again, it looks really nice like this. So I just have to like take inspiration from this, I think, when I start decorating my own buildings, because I'm actually pretty bad at putting in plants in my builds. And they actually do bring in a lot of life into the buildings. So yeah, I should really do a lot more of that. And I was so happy to see that the flooring in the bathroom actually wasn't wood. Because that would have been one of my nitpicky things. It actually was a nice stone texture, so yeah, I was happy about that. I'm not going to mention the walls. And yeah, more plants in the bathroom as well, and some nice decorative things. And yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do with this small space, actually, using the quarter tile placement sheet, as well as the snap to grid false sheet. You can stuff a lot of decorative stuff in there and still have the bathroom be completely usable. So that's a really nice trick there. Yeah, some nice curtains as well, and yeah, these lamps. And then we got to get to the outside of the house, where I realized that there were some rocks around the build that I had missed. So I ended up putting down those as well, and just putting in some finishing touches around the house, trying to make the lots a bit smaller around the edges and more smooth looking. And then I finished up by putting in some trees as well around the lot to make it more foresty, and to cover up those pool tiles as well. So this is the finished house, what it ended up looking like, and I am actually really happy about how this turned out. So yeah, if you enjoy this house, definitely go and check out the original in the Sims 4 as well. Sims 4 Creations really did such a beautiful job with this, and yeah, I really think that it was such a beautiful build, and I was so happy to be able to recreate it in the Sims 2. So I hope that you enjoyed this speed building video, and I hope to be back soon with some more Let's Play episodes as well, as soon as I feel up to it. I'm still recovering from the COVID, even if my voice is slightly back. My energy levels are depleting really quickly still. So yeah, I'm taking a lot of naps and trying to not overdo it. And yeah, I will be back again as soon as I feel up to it. And until then, I hope that you take care and don't get ill like I did. And yeah, I'll see you later. Bye!